I was sold in the middle of a workday. No discount, but with a coffee stain on the contract. That's the line I'll give myself when I wake up at 3 a.m. and try to laugh at the memory. For now, I'm standing beneath a ceiling of glass and ice blue light, in a boardroom shaped like a gavel. The table curves in a half moon, executives perched along it like carved statues, their hollow screens humming with numbers and my name. Levi Hart, drones the compliance officer. You're accused of funneling proprietary data to Calder and Sons. The timestamps correlate with your login. Do you deny it? I look at the holographic projection, where my face flickers next to charts and red flags, and I smile the way you do when the dentist says just a pinch. Firmly, I say. Unless my shadow decided to pick up a side gig. A couple of them blink. One suppresses a smirk. Most don't react at all. They're alphas in tailored charcoal, the kind who hold their phones like knives and think silence is a personality trait. The air tastes like cold metal and scorched ozone. I can smell fear. Mine, like a snapped wire. My pulse thuds in my ears, a hot tap against the inside of my skull, but I let my tongue do the work it's trained for. Your shadow sat at your terminal at 0240, the compliance officer says. Convenient. It also ordered decaf, I shoot back. Which is how you know it wasn't me. A faint ripple of disapproval glides along the table. They don't like jokes, especially not from an Omega who never learned how to fold. I'm supposed to lower my eyes and make a neat, apology-shaped sound. Instead, I stare straight ahead and imagine prying the whole glass wall loose with my bare hands. At the apex of the half circle sits the CFO, Carter Rayne. Everyone else is expensive snow. He's the knife underneath. High shoulders in a slate suit, tie pinned with a thin bar of dull silver, charcoal hair combed with discipline. His eyes are that non-color between storm and steel. He hasn't spoken once. He's been watching me the way auditors watch columns, waiting for the place I don't add up. When the room finally exhales, he stands. The sound of his chair moving is obscenely loud. It's the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the world is leaning in. Carter lifts a slim portfolio, flips it open, and a hologram flowers up. A contract, my name stamped. Across it, a faint circular blot at the bottom. Coffee, or something that decided to pretend. I'm assuming responsibility for Mr. Hart, he says. His voice is steady, not cold so much as exact. Effective immediately, his employment contract is transferred to my division under Clause 17. Any breaches will be handled internally. For a second, I don't understand English. Transfer. Clause 17. Responsibility. Excuse me? I say, because sometimes the obvious needs help. You're, what, adopting me? No one laughs. The chair of the board frowns. Mr. Rayne. This is irregular. Correct, Carter answers. But not unprecedented. If the company doesn't trust him, I will. The potential risk is mine. He glances at me. A quick assessment that pins and measures. Mr. Hart's skills are specialized. I prefer not to lose them to legal theater. It's not theater if I'm the corpse, I mutter. Carter's eyes flick. Not a smile, not anything I can name. Just a tiny shift like a blade glint. The compliance officer sputters. The legal counsel whispers to the chair. There's protocol here, forms that require signatures, witness stamps. Ritual recitations of policy, a whole liturgy for corporate souls. They perform it in rapid, precise murmurs. A clerk brings a pen like a sacrament. I step forward because someone nudges me, or because gravity gets bored. The contract hovers between us, lines of text needle thin and cruel. I scan out of reflex, liability this, indemnity that, the usual bondage dressed as business. And then I see it, a clause that looks like a mirror. Energetic compatibility assessment waived by mutual consent. My mouth goes dry. That's a line that usually comes with 3 counseling sessions and a manager breathing down your neck. No one waives it. Not for alphas and omegas who are going to work elbow close in a box of glass and numbers. Do you understand what you're signing? The legal counsel asks, eyes sharp on me, sharper on Carter. Perfectly, Carter says. Do I have a say? I ask. Technically, the counsel replies, your choices are termination pending investigation or transfer under supervision. The gentle smile doesn't reach her eyes. Supervision is the popular option. Popular with whom? I say, and pick up the pen. The second the nib kisses the signature line, something happens. A cool shock jumps from metal into skin, ricochets up my arm and bursts behind my ribs. It isn't smell or taste or sound exactly, it's like the sensation of a door opening in a vacuum. For an instant, I feel a pressure that isn't touch, and I know, like knowing a storm is coming without seeing clouds, that there's another presence in the room besides the 32 bodies and all their opinions. My vision wavers. A pale sheen ripples around Carter, a color I can't quite name, somewhere between brushed steel and early morning frost. It's nothing, a trick of light, my fear finally throwing sparks. I blink. It's gone. Mr. Hart? The chair asks. Are we finished? I put the pen down. Oh, we're finished, I say. I just don't know what we started. They move on like I'm a memo that got filed. The board approves. The compliance officer logs me out of my old access. HR pushes a packet across the table like a sympathy card. Carter closes the portfolio with a clinical click, as if he's just put the lid on a jar that used to hold air. Report to my floor at 1400, he says to me. You'll receive new clearances. Do I get a collar, or is that extra? I ask. This time, something almost like humor shifts at the corner of his mouth. You get a desk, he says. And a very strict firewall. He leaves without waiting for an answer. The room relaxes like a muscle unclenching. Someone pats my shoulder in the way people pat dogs that have been rescued, and I have to curl my fingers so I don't bite. On the glass wall, the city is a vertical ocean. Windows printed with sky. I can see my reflection, too pale, jaw set, tie hanging like a question we forgot we asked. The corridor outside is quiet enough to hear the building breathe. My footsteps echo on stone, and the cold under the air conditioning has a scent. Coffee, paper, copper. The copper is mine. Fear turned metallic. I rub 2 fingers against my sternum where the shock landed. There's no mark. Just the echo of it. The way a name echoes after someone says it softly in a crowd. Elevators whisper past, ferrying people who still have last names that belong to them. I push through the turnstiles with a temporary badge, and make it as far as a bench under a living wall. Green leaves watered on schedule, thriving under light that never sleeps. I sit because my legs misunderstand standing. He bought you, I think, and the thought is acid and absurd at once. You're an analyst, not a crate of avocados. I should be furious. I am. The anger rasps along the edges of my thoughts like sandpaper. But there's something else under it. Something that feels like being yanked out of traffic by a rude stranger. Safety feels a lot like control when you didn't ask for it. My phone buzzes. A message from HR. Report 1458 degrees Fahrenheit, Rayne Finance, supervised access. A second message arrives before I can answer. No ID, just a plain text line that tastes like steel in my mouth. 14. Don't be late. CR. Of course he has my number. Of course he doesn't add an emoji. I type out 3 versions of bite me, delete them all and settle for copy. Petty rebellions need to be sustainable. When I stand, the world rights itself by degrees. The building's central spine is a stack of light and chrome. People shuttle. In tidy lines, faces focused, as if ambition is a tide they must not miss. I step back into the flow, and let it carry me toward a future printed on a sheet that still smells faintly of coffee. At the glass door to the stairwell, I catch my reflection again. I look like a man about to make a terrible decision on purpose. Which is fair. I've done it before. Great, I say to myself, pushing the door open, voice bouncing up concrete and steel. I'm not just a suspect anymore, I'm property. The elevator hums like it's thinking. When the doors slide open on the 58th floor, the air changes. Colder, sharper, expensive. I can smell caffeine and disinfectant, the twin perfumes of productivity. Carter Rayne's floor is quieter than the others. No chatter, no soft laughter, just the steady rhythm of keystrokes, and the low hiss of the climate system keeping the numbers comfortable. The whole place looks like an equation someone solved decades ago. Glass, metal, symmetry. My new workstation is a single desk beside a window that climbs from floor to ceiling. Outside, the skyline cuts into the clouds like a heartbeat on a monitor. Inside, my reflection stares back, pale, rumpled, newly acquired. No one greets me. A few analysts glance up as I pass, eyes skimming me like I'm a system error. The word omega isn't spoken, but it hangs in the air with that faint sweetness of suppressed pheromones and judgment. I nod at no one in particular, and make myself at home by sitting down and pretending I already belong. 2 minutes later, the temperature seems to drop a degree. Mr. Hart. Carter's voice. I look up. He's standing by the glass wall of his office, door open, gesture sharp. I half expect a leash tug, but I follow on my own. His office is an extension of him, precise, pared down, immaculate. The desk is brushed steel, the shelves symmetrical, and the only color comes from the single green line on a wall-size financial display. The air smells like paper that never wrinkles and coffee that never spills. He waits until I close the door before he speaks. Sit. I do. Out of curiosity, not obedience. He takes a measured breath and leans against the desk, arms crossed. We'll establish a few rules to prevent misunderstandings. Rules. My favorite. He ignores that. First, no personal inquiries. I'm not interested in your private life, and you won't be involved in mine. Tragic, I say. Second, emotional control. You'll maintain professional composure at all times. The team here is sensitive to disruption. I raise an eyebrow. Meaning they don't like emotions, or they don't like mine. Both. I almost smile. Should I also sign a vow of silence, or is eye-rolling still allowed? For the first time, something flickers across his face. Not irritation, not exactly. A flash of metallic brightness, subtle and quick, like light sliding along steel. My chest tightens. The room feels heavier. What was that? I ask before thinking. He frowns. What was what? That thing around you. He looks at me the way one looks at a glitch in a spreadsheet. Hallucinations are not covered under your contract, Mr. Hart. I blink, but the shimmer lingers at the edge of vision, faint, pulsing when he speaks. It's not light from the monitors. It's him. His presence radiates a dull silver hue that intensifies whenever his voice hardens. I swallow. You're glowing. That's enough. He steps closer, and the air pressure shifts. My pulse spikes, something in the back of my skull hums, answering whatever charge exists between us. The bond from yesterday, whatever that signature did, feels awake again. Mr. Hart, he says softly. I don't have time for dramatics. You're here to work. I've reviewed your reports. You're competent. Stay that way. Define competent, I murmur. Accurate, fast, discreet. Discreet I can manage. Fast depends on your coffee budget. A muscle jumps in his jaw. You'll find the pantry sufficiently stocked. I exhale through my nose, half amused, half annoyed. This man is impossible to read, except for that flicker of light, that restrained pulse under his skin. It's like standing near a live wire in a rainstorm. He moves behind his desk, ending the confrontation as neatly as closing a file. You'll receive the current accounts in an hour. There's a backlog from your predecessor. Don't rearrange the formulas unless instructed. Why? Afraid I'll find your secret offshore vault? He glances up. If you do, send me the coordinates. Okay, that almost counted as humor. I tilt my head, studying him. Every line of him is control, his cuffs perfectly even, his tone a monotone weapon. But there's a strange calm under it, not dominance in the usual alpha way. More like gravity. Unyielding, inevitable. He notices me staring. Something wrong, Mr. Hart? Just wondering how you survived this long without decorating. You know, a plant, a photo, something human. This is a workplace, not a greenhouse. Harsh words for the ficus lobby. Your sarcasm, he says, is noted. The meeting ends the way it began, with precision. He hands me a tablet of schedules and dismisses me with a single nod. Back at my desk, I scroll through the spreadsheets. Columns, projections, audit trails. Nothing here should be interesting, but numbers have a way of whispering when you stare long enough. Behind them, I can almost feel the rhythm of his department, clean, logical, nearly lifeless. The hours pass in silence except for the occasional buzz of a message from Carter. Brief directives, always signed. CR as if he's allergic to first names. Each time, I catch that silver afterglow in my peripheral vision, even from across the floor, as though the bond transmits light instead of words. By evening I fixed 3 forecasting errors, discovered 1 miss, filed transfer, and learned that no one dares leave before Carter. When the clock hits 1900, the office is still full of quiet, tense breathing. I decide to test a theory and stand. Dozens of eyes flick up. Leaving early? A nearby analyst whispers. It's 7, I say. Mr. Rayne hasn't left yet. I glance through the glass. Carter's still at his desk, fingers moving across the tablet, face caught in the pale glow. No expression, just motion. If he ever gets tired, he hides it where the light can't reach. Screw it. I grab my jacket. The floor collectively inhales as I head for the door. Mr. Hart. The voice freezes me mid-step. I turn. He's standing again, perfectly still, like he materialized there. Yes, boss? He nods toward my desk. You left your ID. Oh. Right. I walk back, retrieve it, and meet his gaze. The silver flicker is faint now, almost gone, but I feel it under my skin, a quiet pulse syncing with mine. Good work today, he says. That's it. No warmth, no compliment. But somehow it lands heavier than praise. Thanks, I answer. You know, for not yelling. Most alphas yell. He tilts his head slightly, as if considering whether I deserve an explanation. Yelling wastes energy. I calculate. The corners of my mouth twitch. Figures. As I leave, I catch my reflection in the glass, me walking away, him at his desk. A thin line of light connecting us for just a breath before it fades. Weird. Most alphas roar. He computes. And I'm starting to think that's more dangerous. The company's underground archive isn't really underground. It's buried in reinforced concrete somewhere beneath the parking levels, temperature controlled, and paranoid. The kind of place that smells like dust, ozone, and money trying not to age. Rows of servers hum quietly in glass cages, their indicator lights pulsing like artificial fireflies. It's 2 a.m., and the cameras overhead blink red in slow rhythm. I timed their sweep pattern 2 nights ago. I have 7 seconds between passes. 7 seconds to be an idiot. The floor vibrates faintly with the hum of cooling systems. I crouch beside one of the terminals, bypass the password lock with a borrowed key code, and dive into the archives. Old financial reports, audit trails, transaction logs. Each more boring and dangerous than the last. I shouldn't be here. Which is probably why I am. Every report I've seen since joining Carter's team has been scrubbed clean. Too clean. Like someone disinfected the truth until it disappeared. But the deeper I dig, the more I notice the same signature encryption strings. Repeating. Thin fingerprints left by someone who didn't expect to be followed. A shadow trail through numbers. The cursor blinks at me, patient. I pull up the transfer logs from 8 months ago, the time of the leak that supposedly ruined my reputation. There, a cluster of offshore transactions routed through a shell account. Meridian Analytics. Cute. The amounts are small, incremental. Someone careful. But the approval codes? They don't belong to me. They belong to the board. I sit back on my heels, pulse hammering. Every instinct screams don't touch it, but curiosity's a stronger drug than fear. I dig deeper, open a mirrored ledger, and my breath catches. The encryption key is tagged with 3 initials, CR, Carter Rayne. My throat goes dry. Before I can think, the overhead lights flicker, once, twice, and settle into a dim amber glow. My reflection blinks back at me from the glass wall of a server rack, and then a shape moves behind it. Mr. Hart. His voice. Cool, quiet, inevitable. I turn slowly. Carter stands at the end of the aisle, sleeves rolled, no tie, shadows catching the edge of his face. He looks out of place here. Like order personified in the middle of someone else's mess. You think you can read my ledgers, Hart? I straighten, pulse roaring in my ears. I think I already did. A faint curve touches his mouth, but it isn't amusement. It's the warning before a blade falls. He walks toward me, each step deliberate, as if counting the distance between one truth and another. You've broken at least 3 security protocols, he says. 4. If I include the one you just invented. 5, I say. You forgot personal curiosity. The air shifts, pressure building like a storm front. He doesn't touch me, doesn't have to. The alpha energy rolls off him, cold and absolute. My skin prickles as if gravity just changed direction. Back away from the terminal. No. The word comes out sharper than I mean it to. My instincts kick in. The ones drilled into every omega who's ever had to survive a room full of power. I brace, chin up, and feel the same invisible push that hit me during the contract signing. The bond between us hums, alive. Hot under my ribs. He's trying to intimidate me, maybe even protect me. I can't tell which. Why? I demand. Why hide this? You're linked to the same accounts the board used. You're part of it, aren't you? Something flickers in his eyes, silver, then darker, the faint pulse of light that only I seem to see. It's brighter now, alive around him like a halo made of knives. Careful, Levi, he says softly. You don't understand what you're looking at. Then explain. His expression doesn't change. Not here. The pressure increases. A silent wave pressing against my chest. My knees threaten to give, but I hold. The light around him flares, metallic silver, edged with something warmer, almost gold. For a heartbeat I see his aura clearly, disciplined fury threaded with restraint, and beneath it, something quieter. Fear. It knocks the wind out of me. Carter Rayne is afraid. Stop it, I whisper, though I'm not sure whether I mean him or myself. My vision pulses with light and static, every sound muffled except for the rhythm of my heartbeat and the low hum of his voice. Go home, Levi. I can't. Then consider this your final warning. He steps closer, and suddenly he's too near, close enough that I can feel the chill radiating from his skin, smell the faint metallic scent of his cologne. My hands tremble, but not from fear this time. The golden flare around him burns brighter, sharp enough to sting. What are you hiding from me? I ask quietly. He leans in, so close his breath brushes my ear. From you? Nothing. From them? Everything. And just like that, the light dims. The aura collapses into silence. He turns, killing the terminal connection with a flick of his wrist. The screens die in a cascade of darkness. You'll stay off this floor unless I authorize it, is that clear? I should argue. I should scream. But the words stick. The air still hums with leftover energy, and my brain feels like it's been rewired. Crystal, I manage. He leaves without another word, footsteps fading into the corridor. The moment he's gone, I sink onto the cold floor, hands shaking. My eyes still see the afterimage of his aura. Silver bleeding into gold, like sunlight through metal. It doesn't make sense. None of it does. I look back at the blank terminal screen where our reflections linger faintly in the glass, his silhouette tall and unyielding, mine smaller, defiant, caught halfway between suspicion and something I don't want to name. He's not my enemy. I know that now. But he's lying about something big enough to drown us both. And the worst part? I don't know whether I want to expose him, or protect him. By the time morning traffic hums through the city, the connection between us feels different. Not constant, but there. Like a faint vibration in the back of my mind. When Carter's annoyed, I taste iron. When he's calm, the air feels quieter, sharper. I've spent the last 2 days pretending not to notice. It's not working. At 8:47 a.m., I'm buried in a pile of reconciliation reports when the elevator pings. I don't need to look up to know it's him. The floor's tension rearranges itself, straightens like soldiers at inspection. "Morning, Mr. Rayne," someone chirps. "Morning," he answers. Voice the same even tone that somehow makes people breathe wrong. I keep typing. Numbers, columns, data. The world of facts is safer than the one where I can feel someone else's emotions. He walks past my desk, pausing just long enough for his presence to brush against mine. The bond flares, a pulse like static electricity across my skin. It fades the moment he steps into his office. I exhale slowly. The analyst next to me glances over. "You good?" "Perfect," I lie. By noon, I've made 3 mistakes in the same spreadsheet. Carter appears in my peripheral vision without sound, one of his many terrifying skills. "Mr. Hart," he says. "Lunch?" "Busy," I mumble. That wasn't a question. He waits. I look up, ready to argue, but his aura flickers in my vision. Steel gray with a thread of soft blue. Calm, steady, focused. Damn him. "Fine," I say, saving my work with unnecessary force. "Lead the way, boss." The rooftop cafe is the only place in the building that doesn't feel like it's watching you. Glass walls open to the skyline, tables arranged in quiet geometry, wind carrying the smell of roasted beans and ozone. The city sprawls below, alive and anonymous. Carter orders 2 black coffees, no sugar. Of course. "Do you ever drink anything that doesn't taste like penance?" I ask as we sit. "I like simple things," he says. That's one word for it. We drink in silence for a while. He reads something on his tablet. I watch him not react to the view. The wind brushes his hair. Sunlight catches the edges of his profile. Silver light over steel eyes. I tell myself I'm just studying him for tactical reasons. And then I think it. Clear, sharp, and very rude. "You look too good for someone who ruins lives for a living." His head snaps up. "Stop that." I choke on my coffee. "Stop what?" Projecting annoyance at 90 decibels. I blink. "You can hear me?" "Not words," he says evenly. "Just static. Emotionally loud static. That's comforting. It's distracting. Then maybe stop being so readable." "Readable?" "Yeah. You're broadcasting boredom in high definition." His lips twitch. "Just a fraction. You're insufferable. Thanks. I practice. For a long moment, neither of us talks. The bond hums like low background music, faint but constant. I can sense him focusing, his thoughts tightening into neat order, and with them, his aura shifts. It's strange. Colors aren't supposed to have texture. But his do. The gray turns fluid, like mercury, touched with silver warmth. The longer I watch, the warmer I feel. My chest loosens. The tension that's lived in me since the hearing starts to melt, quietly, as if borrowed calm has been poured into my bloodstream. I look down at my cup. Are you doing that on purpose? Doing what? Relaxing me. No, he says. That's your own system adjusting to resonance. Resonance, I repeat, suspicious. That's what we're calling it now? He nods toward me, gaze steady. You're adapting. The contract link synchronizes under sustained proximity. I squint. You mean bonding? I mean synchronization. I grin. Sure, boss. Sounds less emotional that way. This time, he doesn't deny it. The sun catches his sleeve as he leans back, his aura faint but visible again, silver brightening toward gold, reflecting in the glass railing behind him. For a second, I could swear I see the color reach toward mine. Stop staring, he says quietly. Stop glowing. That's not... He sighs, cutting himself off. You remind me of debt collectors. I raise an eyebrow. That's a new insult. They never stop knocking, he says, eyes narrowing in thought. Even when they know there's nothing left to collect. I swirl the last of my coffee. Maybe you should just pay up then. His gaze flickers to me, sharp, curious, almost human. And what would that cost me exactly? An apology, and maybe sugar next time. He actually huffs a laugh, quiet but real. You're impossible. And you keep inviting me to lunch, I say. So what does that make you? He doesn't answer. Instead, he looks out over the skyline, and something about the set of his shoulders softens. The aura around him steadies, a slow rhythm that matches the faint hum under my skin. For the first time since I met him, the silence isn't hostile. It's comfortable, balanced. The connection between us hums lower, warmer. I can feel it. Our energies, or whatever pseudo-scientific term HR would use, sinking into a single pulse. A momentary equilibrium. When he finally speaks, his tone is quieter. You've been digging in the archives again. It's not a question. I meet his eyes. And if I have? His gaze doesn't waver. Then you already know too much. Or not enough. He studies me, that silver flicker in his aura shifting toward a darker tone. Worry maybe, or warning. You think I'm the enemy. I think, I say slowly. You're something else entirely. Our eyes lock, and for a second everything around us, wind, city noise, even gravity, feels irrelevant. The warmth spreads, quiet but undeniable, until the moment breaks with the distant clang of the elevator door. Carter stands first. Back to work. I rise, still dizzy from the sudden shift in temperature, inside and out. The connection hasn't faded, it's just quieter, coiled under my ribs like a heartbeat that doesn't belong entirely to me. He walks ahead, measured, unreadable. I follow a few steps behind, watching the faint shimmer of silver light that only I can see, and for the first time since the day he bought my contract, the thought creeps in, uninvited but certain, I don't want this link to break. Night turns the office into an aquarium, glass walls reflecting glass walls, the city's neon pulsing like a distant reef. Everyone's gone. The desks are clean, screens asleep, the air conditioning humming the same indifferent lullaby. I can see my shape doubled in every surface as I walk down the corridor toward Carter's light. He's still here. Of course he is. His office door stands open, the room lit only by the wall-sized display. Data crawls in silent rivers over dark glass. His profile cuts a hard line against the glow. No tie. Sleeves rolled. The silver of his aura is a faint outline at the edge of sight, as if even the light is tired. I don't knock. You used me, I say, voice too loud in the quiet. All this time I thought you were saving me. I step inside, anger pushing. My words faster than my sense. But you were cleaning your own mess. Carter doesn't flinch, doesn't scowl. He looks up, and what I see isn't cold. Just a weariness that sits deep, the kind that doesn't ask for sympathy. You think I care about saving myself? You made it look that way, I fire back. The shell ledgers, the mirrored accounts, Meridian Analytics. Your initials on the key, I found them. Whatever the board was doing, you were laundering the trail. You wrapped the whole thing in your precision, and let me be the convenient misdirection. The wall display throws blue across his face, hollowing his eyes, making the line of his mouth look softer, almost human. No, he says. I redirected it. To me. To anywhere but you. The heat under my ribs spikes. The bond tugs, sharp, insistent, like a nerve being plucked. I ignore it. You could have told me. You would have tried to help, he says, so flatly it's almost kind. You would have put yourself in the open. You were already on their list. What list? His gaze meets mine, and the silver thins to steel. You were marked for erasure, Levi. They wanted to make an example. I intervened. The word erasure lands like a drop in a still lake, sending ripples through everything I thought I knew. My throat goes dry. You expect me to believe that? No, he says simply. I expect you to do what you always do. Verify. He flicks 2 fingers, and an overlay expands on the wall, a ghost ledger of approvals and redactions, the edges fuzzed like a half-remembered dream. Labeled requests, denied escalations, a string of initials that are not his and not mine. Look closer, he says. I do, because I'm wired that way. The entries stitch into a map beneath my eyes, a quiet campaign to isolate me, to pull my access, to block my transfer out. A schedule that ends on a date I don't want to read. I swallow hard. You think I invented Meridian to hide crimes, he says, voice even. I built it to absorb them. Mine, theirs, anyone's that might otherwise be stapled to you. It still looks like you, I say, and hear the uselessness in it. That was the point. Something in my chest skews sideways. The anger I brought in hits a wall of fact and stumbles. Why me? I ask. He doesn't answer immediately. He studies me instead, as if calculating whether the truth can safely be divided. When he speaks, it's quiet. Because you don't bend. They don't like that. I don't dislike it. That's not confession, it's an equation. It still hits harder than any apology. The bond surges, heat and static and light flaring at the edges of my vision. You should have told me, I say, softer now, because under the anger there, something else, a bleakness, an ache that wants to be a different word. You don't get to make that choice for me. He closes his eyes for a heartbeat, and when they open, there's a line of exhaustion etched where cool lived. You were already chosen. I changed the shape of it. I take a step toward him. The city's reflections crowd the glass. Our faces multiply between skyscraper ghosts. What did they want? To delete the question, he says. Publicly, cleanly. To scare anyone else who thinks numbers should mean truth. I've spent years peeling excuses off of lies. I know when I'm being handled. But he isn't selling me anything. He's laying out a cost ledger and refusing to balance it for me. And you, I say. What did you want? His gaze is steady. For you to live long enough to be angry with me. There's a shape in my chest that might be laughter if it weren't so sharp. Congratulations, I say. You did it. He almost smiles. It doesn't reach his eyes. I noticed. We stand like that for a breath too long, me with a fistful of accusations, him with a file full of quiet wars. The connection pulls taut, drawn to breaking. I can feel his pulse behind my ribs, or maybe it's mine pretending. Color percolates into his aura, the silver brightens, a thread of gold lighting from within. And then it snaps. It's not a sound. It's a sensation, like a cable pulled too tight finally giving way. Pain lances behind my eyes, cruel and white. I stagger, one hand flying to the wall. The glass is cool and alive with our reflected ghosts. My nose floods suddenly. Hot, metallic. Blood. It tastes like pennies and humiliation. Across from me, Carter grabs the edge of his desk, breath shuddering. He doesn't make a noise, but the way his hand curls against the metal tells on him. His head bows, the line of his body arcs around a center that hurts. A spasm climbs through his chest and leaves him pale. What? I say, and have to pause to drag air in. It hurts. What did you do? Nothing, he answers, voice roughened. The first time I've heard it anything but smooth. He breathes once, twice, calibrating himself back into precision. His eyes lift to mine, steady despite the cost. You pulled away too fast. I didn't. I wipe my nose, leave a streak of red on the back of my hand. The sight makes something inside me tilt. So now even our arguments have side effects? Apparently. He exhales, a controlled release. The silver around him flickers, guttering like a candle in wind. Side effects stabilize with honesty. Or so the literature claims. You read literature about this? I manage. I read everything. His gaze traces the blood on my wrist, and something unreadable moves under his expression. Sit down. No. The word is smaller than I want it to be. I straighten, pretending the floor isn't leaning. You lied to me. I omitted. He corrects softly. You hid the scope. Yes. Why? He doesn't reach for me. He doesn't crowd me, doesn't pull rank. He just stands in the half-dark with his hands at his sides, the city moving across the glass like a tide. When he speaks, the soft is gone, leaving only the truth of it. That's the problem with saving people, he says, and the line is almost a whisper. They never forgive you for it. The sentence opens a door I didn't know we were standing in front of. Air rushes in. Cold, clean, mean. I swallow, and it scrapes. You don't get to make me into a debt, I say, and the words crack in the middle. You don't get to buy me and call it rescue. His eyes close for a second. I know. Do you? I ask. Because from here, it looks like ownership. From here, he says, looking at my bloodied knuckles. It looks like survival. The room tilts. I hear the hum of the building, the faraway hiss of traffic, the steady slow cadence. Of a man who won't defend himself because defense would be a waste of accuracy. I want to hit him with my anger until it shatters into something easier to hold. I want to not want anything from him. I press the heel of my hand to my brow. The pain ebbs, leaving a dull ache and a taste of iron that will not go. I can't do this right now. He nods. Doesn't move. I know. Stop saying that. I will, he says. When it stops being true, a laugh tears out of me, wrong and humorless. I take a step back. Then another. My reflection peels away from his in the glass like two layers of film ungluing. If the board comes for me again, I say, don't you dare step in. He watches me. Eyes tired, voice even. I won't have to, because you've already built a prettier trap. Bite. Because you won't give them an opening this time. The quiet after that feels like the end of something. Maybe it is. I wipe my face with a tissue from his desk without asking because boundaries are a joke we told hours ago, and turn toward the door. Levi, he says, and the name stops me where orders never could. I wait, not looking back. He doesn't add anything. Maybe there isn't anything left that can be said without breaking us again. I walk out into the corridor, into the aquarium glow, into the night that has more glass than sky. The building is a machine breathing around me. The elevators are patient. The city below is bright and merciless. By the time the doors close, the bond has settled into a cold, quiet absence, a silence that feels louder than pain. I leave angry. I leave empty. The apartment is dark except for the city light leaking through the blinds. It paints the walls in fractured stripes, neon pink, white, and the faint blue of insomnia. Papers are everywhere, reports, printouts, half-crumpled notes I don't remember writing. My coffee's gone cold hours ago. The file sits at the center of the chaos, glowing on my screen like an open wound. I shouldn't have access to this level of encryption. Technically I don't. But after 3 sleepless nights, a borrowed keychain, and a lot of reckless genius, I'm in. The document unfolds line by line, internal audit logs, redacted transfers, approval strings. I follow them like a trail of breadcrumbs through a forest of deceit, and end up right back where I started. Carter Rayne's name is on everything. At first I think it's confirmation. Proof of guilt. But the longer I stare, the less it fits. The codes are wrong. The timestamps are off. The numbers don't add up. And that's exactly the point. He forged them. Not to hide his crimes, but to erase mine. The realization hits like a blow to the chest. My breath catches. Every document he touched, every number he shifted, each was a diversion, not a cover-up. He rerouted the blame, restructured the trails, buried my signature under his own. He painted a target on himself and called it logic. I lean back, pressing the heels of my palms into my eyes until I see sparks. He wasn't cleaning his mess. He was taking mine. A bitter laugh escapes before I can stop it. You stupid, impossible man. The city outside pulses. Alive and indifferent. I close the laptop, shove on a jacket and leave. The building is half asleep when I get there. Security drones humming, lights dimmed to save power. The elevator's reflection catches my face, pale, wrecked, maybe something close to regret. When the doors open, I see his light first. Carter sits in his office, tie abandoned, shirt unbuttoned at the collar. The desk lamp paints him in warm amber, the rest of the room shadowed. He looks smaller somehow. Not in stature, but in armor. I step inside. He doesn't look up. You could have just told me. The quiet stretches, then, softly. And you would have believed me? I exhale through my nose. Half a laugh, half a sigh. Probably not. That's why. He turns in his chair, eyes catching the glow of the city through the glass. There's a kind of exhaustion in them I've never seen before. Not the physical kind, but the kind that comes from carrying too much logic in a world that refuses to make sense. I move closer. My reflection joins his in the window, two figures blurred by light. All this time, I say quietly, I thought you were just untouchable, calculated. Turns out you were just bleeding differently. His mouth almost curves. That's one way to phrase it. I saw what you did, I continue. You rewrote the audit trails. Moved the signatures. You let the board think you were the one skimming. Why? I told you, he says, voice low. You were marked. The only way to remove you from the list was to make myself look worse. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. The interruption is calm, final. He stands, slow, deliberate, as though gravity is something he's negotiating with. For a second, I think he's going to close the distance between us, but he doesn't. He just stands there, sleeves rolled, hands braced on the edge of the desk. There are things, he says, you can't undo. Numbers that won't balance, debts that don't expire. I chose the equation with the least damage. And you call me dramatic? The corner of his mouth lifts, barely. You're alive, aren't you? That's a hell of a metric. I deal in metrics. We stand there, surrounded by the soft hum of servers, and the distant city outside. For once, there's no tension, no heat in the air, just the weight of things unsaid. The bond between us stirs faintly, cautious, as if testing the air after a storm. I take a slow step forward. He doesn't move, doesn't breathe. Our auras flicker into view. Mine a faint gold shimmer, his the same steady silver I've come to recognize. But they're not clashing this time. They're steady. Parallel. When the edges touch, there's no pain, no shock. Just warmth. It feels like a heartbeat sinking to another, quiet, even, familiar. He closes his eyes. You shouldn't be here. Probably not. Then why are you? I shrug. Because I hate being wrong, and you made me very wrong. He opens his eyes again, and there's something in them that almost looks like relief. You found the truth then? Yeah. A pause. The air shifts, the warmth deepens, seeping through the silence until even the city noise fades. I thought, I say, that you bought me because you wanted control. Turns out, you just didn't want me dead. He doesn't deny it. I told you once, saving people is rarely appreciated. I'm not thanking you. Good, he says. And that tiny smile returns, weary but real. It wouldn't suit you. The bond hums again, stronger this time, like a line of static turned to music. The light around us evens out, silver and gold overlapping until they blend into something softer, something alive. For the first time in days, my pulse doesn't hurt. Breathing feels simple again. Carter breaks the silence. The link will stabilize now. No more backlash. That a professional observation? Personal, he admits. I let out a quiet laugh. Careful. You're almost human when you say things like that. Don't tell anyone. The moment lingers. No grand declarations. No forgiveness spoken aloud. Just the quiet recognition that something between us has shifted. I turn to go. The city's reflection follows me across the glass, gold bleeding into silver. At the door, I glance back. Carter. He looks up. Next time you decide to rewrite the rules of math and morality, maybe loop me in. I'll consider it, he says. Good. I leave before the warmth can become something else. The hallway feels cooler, but the air carries a pulse that wasn't there before. By the time I reach the elevator, I realize I'm breathing evenly for the first time in weeks. The bond hums faintly beneath my skin. Not heavy, not binding. Just alive. Morning in the city smells like espresso and ambition. The cafe at the base of Rayne Corp is all glass and greenery, plants hanging from steel frames. Soft jazz under the hum of traffic, the light slanting through the windows like melted gold. It's been 3 weeks since the world stopped burning. Long enough for the rumors to fade, for the board to move on to new scandals. And for me to realize I no longer flinch when someone says audit. The elevator doors open, and I spot him instantly. Carter Rayne, punctual as gravity, already at a corner table with 2 coffees. One black, one suspiciously milky. Mine, obviously. He looks up as I approach. Mr. Hart. Mr. Rayne, I say, dropping into the chair opposite him. I see you finally learned my order. I'm capable of adaptation. I'll alert the media. He doesn't rise to the bait, but his mouth almost curves. It still amazes me how much expression he can fit into half a millimeter of movement. The cafe hums around us, the hiss of milk foam, the clink of cups, the soft shuffle of early commuters. Outside, the city is alive, but up close, the world feels oddly calm. Balanced. So, he says, sliding a file toward me. The partnership contract is finalized. I glance at the folder, but don't touch it. You really did it. Made me your equal. I didn't make you anything, he says simply. You earned it. For a second, the sincerity almost derails my sarcasm. Almost. Don't get sentimental on me, boss. It'll ruin your image. He takes a sip of his coffee, unbothered. You still call me that? It's habit. Don't flatter yourself. Duly noted. We sit there, 2 silhouettes reflected in the wide cafe windows, surrounded by the pulse of the city we somehow survived. I can feel the bond still humming faintly under my skin, no longer a leash, not even a tether. More like an echo. A heartbeat that doesn't need to belong to anyone. Carter's eyes lift from the cup to me, curious. You're quieter than usual. Just waiting for the perfect moment to remind you that you still owe me coffee. He blinks, faintly amused. We're drinking coffee. This doesn't count. You bought it voluntarily. Then what would make it count? A proper apology coffee, you know, contrition, guilt, maybe a pastry. He leans back in his chair. Then I suppose I'll be in your debt forever, Mr. Hart. The line lands softer than it should. Warm. Honest. I hate how much I like the sound of it. Forever's a long time, I say. He looks at me for a moment that feels suspended outside of time. No tension, no calculation. Just 2 people who have already broken and rebuilt each other in quiet ways. Then I'll make it worthwhile. The sunlight shifts, scattering across the glass table, and for a heartbeat, I see it, the faint shimmer between us, gold and silver twining in the air. Our auras, still there, still in tune. Not binding, not commanding. Just agreeing. Carter follows my gaze, and his expression softens. The way it only does when he forgets to guard it. Seems the link stabilized after all. Yeah, I say, smiling. Looks like even contracts can learn consent. He laughs under his breath. A quiet sound, genuine and warm. We sit like that for a while, 2 people, 2 coffees, and the city moving on without us. Somewhere in the distance, a bus breaks, a phone rings, the day begins. I finish the last sip of my coffee and set the cup down between us. So, what now? Now, he says, we work, we argue. We continue pretending not to enjoy it. I grin. Sounds fair. As I stand to leave, his reflection catches mine in the glass wall. Silver, light crossing gold, a brief shimmer before fading into daylight. The connection hums one last time, not as an order or accident, but as something chosen. And as I step into the sunlit street, the thought settles quietly, certain and warm. Debts can be repaid, but some are better kept.